did you go to school?
And here's your...
What do you think of what's going on right now, mate?
These evil little invisible parasites.
Satan-worshipping Freemason moron.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
We're not run by factions.
Get the fuck out of camera!
There are much more powerful international forces in play.
Is this pink guy? Is this what pink guy is? I don't fucking know what's happening.
Please go outside and look at the moon quickly.
It's been crazy, guys, but guess what? It's how it is, mate.
Mate, because I want to do you slowly.
Well, I ain't spending any time on it.
Welcome to the Conditional Release Program, a podcast that delves into the netherworld of cults, crims, and con artists. This is our rabbit hole edition. We're diving deep. And I'm Jack the Insider, otherwise known as Peter Hoysted for tax purposes.
And I'm Joel Hill, and this week we are going to have another look at Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, and the Great Reset. But this time through the lens of one of their little members, the Danish MP Ida Auken, that we briefly mentioned in the last Rabbit Hole episode, but we're going to dive right into the you will own nothing and be happy idea that make conspiracy theorists lose sleep for reasons they don't even understand.
You're like that now, Joel. You're happy, aren't you?
Oh, reasonably.
You don't own anything.
I could be happier. I certainly don't own shit. I own my Yaris, which has a fucking water leak.
Yeah, it's a really twisted message, but they really do love this line. You won't own anything and be happy.
Yeah.
But they constantly attribute it to Klaus Schwab, which isn't true. And when asked what it means, they just make shit up.
Yeah.
The government is coming to take your house, your cat, and your toothbrush, and you'll have to hire them back on an hourly basis. And the only currency they will accept is adrenochrome from tortured children. It's stupid, but the truth isn't much better. The article describes a truly bizarre dystopian future. I mean, it's like it's a dystopian utopia.
Yeah, exactly.
Where tech bros use your lounge room for meetings and you attract everywhere you go.
Yeah, and look, the conspiracy theorists have got it completely wrong, but the reality of it is almost as absurd as the cookers make it out to be. Because, I mean, it's not just you'll own nothing and be happy, as they like to quote in tweets, because, hey, I guess there's a character limit. The full title of the article is, Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. And it's like, why no privacy? Why did you add that part to the top?
Why is that? It just seems superfluous, doesn't it?
Don't put that in. It's not.
Yeah, so let's get stuck into this absolute train wreck of an article, Joel.
Oh, why not? I mean, look, conspiracy theorists and general right-wing blowhards have decided to make the World Economic Forum a huge target for their bullshit disinformation campaigns. It's been going for a few years now. Any fucking thing you see on Telegram is something to do with bloody Klaus Schwab these days. They love calling them unelected globalists, which is such a bizarre concept for a political ideology toward the right that cheerleads for unelected CEOs to have unchecked power in free markets. I mean, the second you tell them to put controls on the rich, they're like, that's communism!
And randomly support autocrats, you know.
Oh. Fuck
Vladimir Putin, hooray, we love him. We just love the look of that guy.
Yeah.
So this is the circular logic. And with a bizarre amount of confidence, they claim that an organisation made up of some of the biggest corporations and bankers, some of the wealthiest people in the world are somehow communists.
Yeah, exactly, because that makes so much fucking sense. I'm such a communist, I've got 900 homes. And while this is completely insane, Schwab's ideas do often encourage this sort of government intervention and regulation, so there is this sort of like shadow of communism, this idea of stakeholder capitalism.
Shadow of the state, not communism. I mean, I can explain to you what communism is, and it's nothing like this.
The Americans think that fucking healthcare is communism. So, like, you know, I mean, I can see why they say it. It's not saying they're right. But his idea of stakeholder capitalism in his books, it extends the benefits of corporations to all stakeholders involved, all the profits, instead of just simply to shareholders. And that's really not a communist idea. This is still very much within the capitalist liberalized system.
It sure is.
But it seems to really get up more conservative, super wealthy types who truly do exist in that Scrooge McDuck image, you know, like jumping into the gold and, you know, just being complete assholes. But then you've got these...
It would actually hurt. It would hurt
so much. I'm always worried about that, you know, with your neck. But then you got like the more benevolent, rampant capitalists like George Soros, Warren Buffett, who they hate. And these are the guys who will stand up there and say, our tax rates are far too low. My secretary pays more tax than me, and then pay that low tax. And they will employ people to make sure they pay the legal bare minimum of tax. So, I mean... And while it irritates the fuck out of me that they clearly haven't read any of the actual source information released either by the WEF or Klaus Schwab's books themselves, and they just make shit up on the back of it, this article is a little bit different, because on face value, it is a bit cooked. But most of their outrage is, as usual, lazy and confected. Because it's generally accepted in the conspiracy universe. The World Economic Forum's evil plans are outlined in the books of Schwab, the ones he's written. It's all out there in the open, which includes stakeholder capitalism and the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Great Reset. The Great Reset being, of course, a very popular one because it just sounds kind of foreboding.
It's just catchy, isn't it?
Isn't it just? But after reading these books, like audio books, but whatever, I thought the approach would be that these were actually smokescreens. This is the approach from conspiracy theorists, that they're smokescreens put up by Schwab to produce this sort of pretty picture to distract from the real agenda. But no, they say... And I looked all over the place. They believe that Schwab's books are an admission of his plot, that it's all out on the table, but they haven't read the fucking books.
No.
They're just nothing.
Hey, they're not readers,
like what they say. They're
no
not
one's reading
readers.
anymore. No one's reading anymore.
I'm terrible. I'm an audiobook guy, but they need videos. I don't know why.
Yeah,
so
and short ones. 2.5 minutes tops.
Yeah, well, actually, it's amazing the longevity they have in some of these videos. Like, they'll post these, 90-minute long diatribes of some Italian parliament. You're like, wow, you're an idiot, but your attention span is incredible when you want it to be.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway.
That dozed off. Yeah.
So, look, we'll kick off with former senator, and I don't know if I'm the only one who thinks this, but he looks straight up like a gay porn actor. Corey Bernardi, like those big bulging veins in his head. He's
a
got
rower.
Big...
He missed out on one particular Olympics for illness or injury or something. But yeah, he's a rower.
God, he's going to be really upset when trans women get into rowing. Anyway, he says the World Economic Forum has been upfront about its agenda for the public because he thinks it's all in the books.
Yeah, I like to think of Bernardi as Mr. 3%. I call him Mr. 3%.
Okay.
This is a bloke who swore hand on heart he would remain a Liberal and got a high spot on the South Australian Libs ticket at the 2016 election as a result. And then after the election, in fact, 7 months later, defected.
Amazing.
He founded the Australian Conservatives, entered into a coalition with Family First, and while still a senator, took the Australian Conservatives, this new coalition party with Family First alongside them, to the South Australian state election in 2018 and returned with less than Family First's vote from the previous election.
Amazing.
I mean, it's a coalition that's actually got smaller.
Well done.
And he actually got 3% of the vote, hence the name. The man is a political half-wit. I mean, he really is. This guy, everything he touches turns to shit politically.
Yeah.
Anywho, this is what the political genius had to say. WEF founder Klaus Schwab even wrote about it in a book entitled The Great Reset. That's where you'll own nothing and be happy, Mr. 3% said.
This is what fucking pisses me off, because that's not where you'll own nothing and be happy. It's not in the book. It's not in the Great Reset. It's just not. But that's the thing. He doesn't need to fucking read it, because his target audience are morons. They're not going to hold him to account. They're just be like, ooh, they're not fucking readers. And neither am I.
What we got here.
The audiobook, just as a side note, was actually one of those text-to-speech ones because they haven't got an official audiobook version. So I listened to a robot's...
You were talking to a robot.
Hundreds of pages spoken to me through my car stereo as a robot.
Who, if basic chaos theory is anything to go by, will turn against us and kill us all.
Oh, 100%. Look, I'm looking forward to my audiobook Strangling Me to Death.
And then we have a teeny weeny Queensland Senator, Malcolm Roberts, a man so stupid he can't send an email.
No.
And just like Bernardi, although Bernardi's doing it for media clout,
yes.
The Senator is just pandering to his own voter base.
Yes, and we do say voter base lightly, considering he only got 77 votes and brabbied it on a Section 44. So, I mean, this is just, he's a nobody. He claims this is, quote, Klaus Schwab's life by subscription, which he said in the chamber in a speech. He's an idiot.
Hello.
Klaus Schwab has in no way endorsed product as a service as a concept. He just hasn't. But Roberts is an idiot. And once again, doesn't really need to go by anything. He just makes shit up. He goes on to say that corporations will own everything, homes, factories, and farms, like they already don't. And when the Greens suggest that we should have checks and balances on rich people, Teeny Weeny screams communism. And then he spins this shit like he's some sort of fucking nationalism hero. Like, fuck you. He even claims that people will be forced to rent what they need, but only if their social credit score allows them to. The source? Just trust me, bro. Like, he's clearly read this article, and I get that. That's fine. Took him 5 minutes tops.
He's read an article. Yeah.
And they made up a whole bunch of paranoid shit
Yep.
and just linked to it. And this is so typical of the conservative universe, especially in the cooker space. It's just their bread and butter. But a fucking senator, I mean, that is terrible. Like, have some self-respect. And you can see his speech on YouTube if you want, but it's all made up bullshit. He just makes it up.
Look, Tony, when we talk about our senators, there's not a lot to get proud of there nowadays. But when we talk about Tony Weeny, when he actually got into, well, he did actually file a kind of sovsit writ against Julia Gillard. Let's not forget that when he was a senator, and then with the semicolons and so forth under his name, and then when someone said, "Hey, sovsits do that," he goes, "I'm really not a sovsit." Where'd you learn it from then, champion? And the other thing that he did was produce this great whopping conspiracy theory file that he released actually into the Parliamentary Library that contained speeches from JFK, Roosevelt, FDR, and they were completely made up. Now, he'd either made them up himself. He's never answered these questions, by the way. He'd either made up these speeches from JFK and FDR himself, or he'd simply cut and paste someone who did.
I think that's
there
the case.
is no record of these speeches that he refers to frequently. Man's an idiot.
What a fucking moron.
And just another one, just to round off the senatorial idiots, Liberal Senator for South Australia, Alex Antic.
I hate him.
He's got the crazy antics. Has been all over this, New World Order, all this sort of stuff. An angry, paranoid idiot who appears reasonably intelligent until he opens his mouth. And that's the giveaway. That's when you know. At least with Teeny Weeny, here's a bit of a joke. I mean, you just look at him and go, that guy is funny.
Yeah, you can't
but Antic is dangerously respectable and completely unhinged. We might remember some of his anti-vax sort of nonsense as well.
And he's still going too.
The Institute for Strategic Dialogue tracked his videos on Twitter and Facebook, noticing he had an extraordinary level of reach outside of this country, stating that while the content was fairly tame on the scale of Great Reset rhetoric available online, his position in the Australian Senate conferred a level of legitimacy and official confirmation to the narrative.
And we got
one more, haven't we, Joe? We got one more, Senator.
Well, we've got half of one. Of course, we've got to mention Ralph Zippy Babbitt.
Zippy!
I mean, he's also in the Senate, but like nobody can possibly take him seriously enough because he's just so clearly an idiot. He just has dumb energy. And when he speaks, you just want to laugh because, like, he has the oration skills of a seventh grader.
When he walks into the room, everyone just gets dumber.
Yeah, exactly. Or at least smarter by comparison. And I mean, but this is why I love him so much. This is why he's got a spot at the top of the show. I adore this man. I adore this moron. He's been using the whole "you'll own nothing" alongside the whole "you'll eat bugs" thing for ages. I don't care. I'm not taking you seriously. But this is the thing. When it comes to Antic, his position in the Australian Senate confers this level of legitimacy. Babbitt, I mean, look, you could be the fucking king of England and no one's listening to you because you are clearly a moron.
His maiden speech, we're not allowed to use that term, but his first speech in the Senate.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Included the word, it's a French word, and Zippy assures us that he speaks French. It included the word faux, F-A-U-X, as something being contrived or not real. And he pronounced it fox. But he speaks French.
Well, he's Mauritian, so I guess. I mean, like, he probably does speak French. And look, I can't judge someone that made a speech because you must be nervous standing up there in front of, tens of people and speaking in public. But at the same time,
I'm going to say that if you've rock and rolled your way around politics enough to put your name on a ballot, you might have got used to a bit of public speaking. So being nervous and shitting yourself in front of 12 people and none of whom care what you've just written.
No, they're all on their phones.
It really shouldn't be terrifying. But go on, Joel.
No. So look, alongside Schwab's books, which these people speak confidently about despite having never read them or even probably looked at the fucking foreword, the World Economic Forum releases articles written by members of the group alongside recordings of conference sessions, podcasts, videos on YouTube, the whole bit.
Whole bunch of stuff.
They have media stuff. Then they'll discuss the potential impacts of technology. They've got a very futurist sort of bent. There's this social change, the way it which sort of materializes over time. And it's actually quite interesting. If you want to check out the impact of technology on changing markets and on society, there's lots of sort of speculative stuff, but it's really interesting. And the people behind it are often really quite clever. This article may be a small exception to that.
Yeah.
Ida Auken, the Danish MP that wrote this article.
Not Klaus Schwab. Ida Auken. Yeah.
No, not Schwab. Auken took the ball and literally ran with it and ran into a wall. I mean, this article is strange.
Yeah, it is.
The article was published just before the World Economic Forum had yet another meeting of rich people and figures of government. And this one was the annual meeting of the Global Future Councils, say that 10 times quickly, held in the famously progressive country Dubai in 2016, which was described by the WEF as...
the annual meeting of the Global Future Councils, our network of forward-looking thinkers from business, government, civil society, and academia.
Yeah, so, it's got a nice cross-section of people.
It's everybody.
I'm guessing the academics don't pay because they have no
except
money.
for the poors. It's everybody except for the poors.
Yes, only the prestigious poors, the one who have doctorates. But it is mostly just rich kids talking about cool technology, a few Emiratis in there, and a bunch of tech bros who, let's face it, most of their incentive to go this is to try to self-regulate to avoid government intervention, which is going to fuck with their plans to make Skynet sentient. I mean, that is genuinely part of the plan. Get ahead of government, go and have a chat with Klaus's mates, and then you can make sure the government don't put reasonable regulations on your psychotic technological advances. But as with most WF meetings, they sought to address these pressing issues facing the world as a result of these technological advancements, clashing with these sort of social order and these sort of things we hold dear. The potential end of American world dominance is on the table. The threat of climate change is always there. And because the WF loves taking membership money from sketchy Middle Eastern countries, tons of puff pieces on Dubai itself.
Terrific people.
Great
place. Human rights record.
Good shopping. Really good shopping.
Hotels, second to none.
The beers are not a great craft beer scene, but that's fine. Don't worry. You can't have everything. No. The basis of the article is there's number 1 to 8 predictions for the world in 2030. So it's like a sort of series of 8 predictions that are going to happen in, at that point, was around 15 years.
This, again, to remind our listeners, is Auken, the Danish MP's article, not Klaus Schwab's. No?
Yes. It is definitely good to say for those at the back because he has nothing to do with this. He's the head of the organization. This is like a subsect of like global councils. This is beneath him at best.
Yeah.
So this was discussed at the meeting, which is basically that all products will have become services. And that was the number 1 prediction for 2030, that all products will have become services. And that's very important. And this is something we've actually seen quite widely as a practical example in the software sector, with companies like Adobe and Microsoft moving to a subscription-style service where you no longer own the software, but you subscribe to it. And this is so, of course, you keep paying them money.
Yeah. It's just a better business plan.
It's just for profit.
A better business model. I mean, I when I first started, I mean, I thought I had to pay for MS Word, for example, right? Because I used that. And then they started billing me $40, and I went to my bank and said, cut that shit out now.
And then your words
I had
working.
no idea they were doing this.
Yeah.
This is quite a few years ago. And then then I realised, I'm not paying $40 a month or anything like that. I think I do pay them $10 now.
Well, I tell you what, look, I'm not telling you to do this, but on eBay and AliExpress, you can get licenses for a lot cheaper than $129 a year. But still.
Anyway, that's just the business model, because you can sell the software, people are going to copy it, all that sort of stuff, and they're going to move it around, and this is best. This is the best way. This is a steady stream of ready cash going into huge companies' cash flow, like Adobe and Microsoft.
It's purely for profit. There's no real true benefit to it whatsoever, except for updates no one cares about. So look, we'll go into more detail on the article itself as we sort of break it down from here. But this is the World Economic Forum explaining the article in just a simple paragraph.
I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes, writes Danish MP Ida Auken. Shopping is a distant memory in the city of 2030, whose inhabitants have cracked clean energy and borrow what they need on demand. It sounds utopian. It actually doesn't. Until she mentions that her every move is tracked. Outside the city live swathes of discontents, anti-vaxxers, dirty people, the ultimate depiction of a society split in two. So we've got this not utopian, dystopian future.
Exactly. And this is such an important bit of context. And you'll see as we read the article through this thing that none of this is in the article. None of this perspective is given up front. There's no disclaimer. There's no foreword. They just jump into, hey, look at our rosy vision of the future, and then explain to us something that is mildly terrifying. And that last bit is so important because the article is so terrifyingly dismissive of these discontents that live outside of the city and truly paints a fucked up dystopian picture of a split society of basically what you could call freedom fighters, but really just people who eat actual pizza and like steaks. And then you've got these doe-eyed idiots on fucking soy paste who are living in these buildings where fucking tech bros have meetings in the lounge room when they're taking a piss.
Better borrow myself some new underpants.
Yes, exactly.
I just shat in these.
Don't worry, they're someone else's.
I'm going to lose my deposit.
Lose your and it might send you bankrupt. So look, it's not a great situation here. But it's important that we establish that the WF are not completely psychotic, and neither is Auken. There is some self-awareness here that doesn't translate into the article. Like I say, there's no warnings, there's no forewords. So I'd like to use this as a basis to give some credit to conspiracy theorists who may have misinterpreted the tone of the article because they didn't really get a good warning on why this has a lot more nuance to it. But it also took me like 5 minutes to find that quote. And it's been years since the article came out. They're not doing their research. And they're so famous for doing that.
Yeah.
But it's because they want to be angry. This is catnip to them. This is their industry. And this is kerosene for the fire. And they're always looking for new ways to put kerosene on the fire. Yeah. So she had to later clarify things, and she added this.
Danish politician Ida Auken, who wrote the prediction in question here, said it was not a utopia or dream of the future, quote unquote, but a, quote, scenario showing where we could be heading for better and for worse. Unquote.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's, she's doing the H.G. Wells thing. She's having a bit of a glimpse into the future, and she might have got a whole bunch of things wrong. I do like her depiction of the Morlocks.
Look, context is so important. There was none.
I want to kick the shit out of one of them right now.
So look, in this written update, she clarified the piece aimed to start a discussion about some of the pros and cons of the current technological development. And when we're dealing with the future, it is not enough to work with reports. We should start discussions in many new ways. This is the intention with this piece.
Fair point.
But this intention wasn't clear. There was no foreword. You can't be assuming that we're all fucking members of the WF and attending regular sessions. It doesn't take long to clarify this if you look into it. I ain't got the money
for that.
Well, no, you don't, and you never fucking will, because it's disgustingly expensive because these people are cooked. It is for the elites, and it is quite unashamedly so, and we should never lose sight of the idea that this organisation isn't benevolent. And just because we want to be contrarian to cookers.
The OED definition of elitism.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, let's not forget that. But I'm not going to let bullshit stand. And that is the main issue that I have when it comes to disinformation. Even if I'm standing up for rich assholes who wouldn't piss on me if I was on fire, it fucking shits me that they're being vilified for dumb reasons. Vilify for good reasons.
They might set fire to you in order to prove that point.
Yes, they'd set fire to me and then make me pay for the piss. I mean, this is how these people think.
Rent the piss.
Exactly.
You can rent
Piss is a service.
Yeah.
So, for example, the have no privacy aspect is the idea that the way in which data has become monetized and devices are surveilling us around the clock, we have become the product. And this is already happening now. And this is discussed in the session at the 2017 Davos meeting, What If Privacy Becomes a Luxury Good? And the title kind of sums it up. This is it outlines a potential future where a price tag may be attached to opt out of constant surveillance by big tech firms. And what can be possibly done to avoid this potential reality with regulation and things like that to try and make sure that we can still be a product because they're capitalist scums, but also to make sure that it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah.
Because it is have a lot of potential to get out of hand. And I mean, like, look, that is really interesting, Ida, and I love your work. This is really great, but I haven't been to Davos. You know, we're not Davos people. We're just general public. I wasn't invited because no one cares what I fucking think. However, I did read Have No Privacy in the title, and just because I wasn't realizing there was hours of context in sessions and lectures behind it, I mean, come on, that doesn't make me simple or a lot of the people who took this completely out of context. I totally understand why people got alarmed by this.
Yeah, maybe it's the gift of Danish irony, and it's just not. It's not easy to pick up.
There's not many of them.
This is something the Australian government has to address right now. Governments around the world, but Australia in particular, because what the Optus hack showed us is that there's just data that sits in corporations' databases that is not moved on, particularly related to telecommunications, that they're supposed to keep for government. You know, for government use,
metadata, blah blah, whatever,
law enforcement, etc. Right, and they're actually keeping it for 10, 15, an indeterminate amount of time, and that really needs to change. And it can change. It can change very easily.
Yes, it can.
With legislation that just says if you have this person's data after 6 years and you have no further contact with that particular individual, kill the data.
Yeah, or de-identify it, or do anything.
Send them an email and tell them that you've done it.
Yeah, and that's really not a big deal. It's not a hard thing to do, but unfortunately we have very, very lazy organisations that only do things that they're forced
Well, we
to.
have very lazy governments. We've just had a very lazy right-wing government who just did not address these things.
They don't give a
computers, hey, they can do all sorts of things on computers now. And that was about the full extent of the grasp of technology from the Morrison government, for example. I mean, you really put Turnbull in that.
These are people who pressed like on porn tweets. I mean, dude, you can't be expecting them to regulate technology.
We're fat chicks, I think, in the classic.
So, look, even on a tweet from the World Economic Forum, there was a quote which was, you know, you'll own nothing and be happy. And it's got this shit-eating grin from this stock photo, but it crops out the important bit. Or sometimes it leaves it in. Malcolm Roberts left it in because his audience of morons.
He's an idiot.
You'll own nothing and you'll be happy. This is how our world could change by 2030. Read more. And then there's a link, right? So they're qualifying it. They're saying this is how our world could change. Yeah. And then it later qualifies it even further by saying this is based on the input of members of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Councils. Klaus Schwab, not a member of that.
Not a member of that.
He's the boss.
And this was just simply the sort of dystopian view of the world put together by Ida, who doesn't understand irony, clearly, and and has just given the cookers, you know, a short one outside the off stump to just smash to the boundary.
Straight to the boundary. It really is unfortunate. But look, if it wasn't this, it'd be something else. Let's face it. I mean, like, they've always got something.
They always see something.
Idiots. But the thing is, it is subtle, but it was there, you know? This isn't a picture of what they're aiming for. It's a picture of what could happen. It's potentially a warning. But, like, to read that into that small bit of just, you know, this is how our world could change, I mean, people need more context than that. I wouldn't call people stupid for misinterpreting that, but you can see that the whole time, you know, they're not backtracking on this. Since day dot, this wasn't meant to be a hopeful utopia. It was more of a, hey guys, you might want to check this situation out.
It's going to be Morlocks and everything. It's going to be horrible.
Dennis Leary, we'll get back to that in a second. But like with anything that right-wing agitated use to fuel these sort of profitable fear narratives, it's more complicated than it seems, and they almost willfully leave out the details. And with the WEF, everything's fucking complicated. I mean, everything is detailed. These people are actual dorks. There is nothing but detail. These people are so fucking long-winded, and those long-winded things are hugely detailed. Fascinating, but dorks.
A lot of reading.
There's also a copy of the article on the WF website, which has since been deleted at the request of Icon due to threats and abuse she's received from idiots who missed the point of the fucking article. Amazing.
She would have copped some whoppers too. There'd be some
just
terrible
awful
threats. And
probably still now. And just because there's one article she wrote on a futuristic concept.
Yeah.
Fuck you. And the links do actually remain up. They're just broken. So they are accessible through the Wayback Machine because that exists.
We did see that, yes.
An interesting thing was in the URL they put shopping, I can't really remember what that is, which is a part of the article. But it's interesting that was the part that they decided to put in the URL. So they, you know, there's a little emphasis on that. And it's always interesting to see these little, like, you know, tidbits to see.
Yeah, I know. Because everyone loves shopping. I mean, most people do love shopping, whether it's just popping down to the supermarket and all that sort of stuff. And what do you mean? They're going to take it away and Morlocks and stuff? What?
I've got a love-hate relationship.
This is how they pull them in. This is genuine cult behaviour.
It is. But, like, the thing is, right, like, you know, I go into Coles, and half the time I'm there like, I'm fucking wasting my time. This is pointless. I should just program my Amazon to deliver everything to me by drone. And then my second thing is, I love the lights. Coles radio's playing a banger. I'm just walking around, looking at all these pretty colours. Life is good. Because it's designed to fuck with your head. And I just take those things in.
I've just got to get milk, which means I'm going to have to walk 4 kilometres into the store.
It gets my steps up too. That is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, at the end of the article,
science at play there. But yeah, sorry, go on.
At the end of the article, there is this disclaimer.
The views expressed in this article are those of the author alone, and not the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, not Klaus Schwab. You know, not the boss.
Not Klaus.
The Danish lady.
Weeny. You should know this, man.
Do your research. Fuck's sake. I mean, it's still a terrifying article that is quite hard to swallow. But why go for the boss?
It's a piece of fiction. Anyway.
Look, on the list, there's the 8 things. That's number 1. The other 7 are pretty banal, but they're worth mentioning. There's a price on carbon, which is boring. The end of US dominance and a multipolar society, which is becoming more and more likely. Yep. This is great. Farewell Hospital, Hello Homespital, which is their sort of take on telehealth. But, like, how bad is that bit of copy from The Intern? Homespital? Like, that's just absolute toilet thought. Eating less meat, which is a huge bogeyman for the right at the moment because everything's about eating bugs. I mean, come on, guys. We're killing a lot of animals. It's kind of fucked up. I eat like a chicken a day. Number 6 is today's Syrian refugees, 2030 CEOs, which is so lovely. Like, it's so banal, but it's such a lovely puff piece. Because, you know, like, apparently in 2030, the Syrian refugees will come of age and be brilliant at stuff for some reason, which is nice. I mean, it's just,
and none of them will be violent because they've lived in a violent environment for so long where the price of human life is so cheap that they'll be affected by that in a bad way.
No. They were brought to civilized countries at young ages, taught through the best schools Germany has to offer, and now they're about to become the next leaders.
This is the million Syrian refugees in Germany. Look, you know that a lot of people are going to be very, very productive members of society. So I get that. But I mean,
it was nice.
But don't add to their burdens by saying, hey, we're just sitting back waiting for you all to become geniuses and stuff.
Yeah, you best be CEOs. I don't know.
Come on,
that's actually
do something smart.
So number 7 is that Western values will be tested to a breaking point, which is kind of playing out right now as the culture wars are flaring up.
Oath, mainly because the right wing and conservatives, so-called conservatives, are anti-US. This is the new thing. They're anti-West. This is the new thing, that they are anti-West, anti-US. This was always a leftist occupation or preoccupation. Now it's the right. Now it's Tucker Carlson. He is anti-West. He is anti-US.
That Zuby Music dickhead on Twitter, who I don't know why he has a blue tick, he was saying that he doesn't like what's happening in the US for raising a family, and that he thinks that people should move to Saudi Arabia if they want a family-friendly environment.
Oh, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So, no, you're absolutely right. The right wing are moving away from American values and going toward, like... So the other thing that I found was fascinating about this, and we shouldn't go too hard on the side note, but that 4chan and all these kind of fucked up edgelords are saying how base the Taliban are because they put women in their place and they have cool guns.
Yeah, it's completely fucking nuts. I mean,
insane.
Not so long ago, the Saudis were hiring basically people who go around and execute people with scimitars.
Yeah.
So maybe, there are at least job opportunities there.
And the other thing is, and we'll get into this, and it's further down, but the WF and the Saudis are in bed, and it is sickening. But that's another episode, and we'll talk about that later. Blah blah blah.
Well, look, it is the one regime that is studiously ignored by most of the West, particularly the UK and the US, with the possible exception of most recent events where Biden went over there and talked to them about oil production and got the bum's rush. And now apparently there's a review of their relationship now. But everyone's been cutting them slack. You want to know why? Because they're they're the right kind of Arabs.
That's
and
right.
they have the right kind of Islam as well. So the West is all piling on Iran. It's a terrible country, by the way. Don't get me wrong. I'm not suggesting that it's unfair.
Terrible
that
country full of good
and
people, but
these sorts of things are unfair on Iran. And I think the bravest people on the planet are those who are protesting from the middle class in Iran, in Tehran. But from the West, we've already picked a side here. We've said, oh, well, the Iranians are terrible. Well, the Saudis are terrible too, but we think they're going to be more stable.
Yeah, more helpful.
More helpful. They've got more money.
Yeah, I mean...
So that's where that all comes from. They are both deplorable. One Sunni extremist, the other Shiite extremist, and we've decided that we're going to pick sides, and we'll ignore every human rights outrage in Saudi Arabia, and there are so many, particularly around the Yemeni conflict, and just at home anyway. But Iran will focus on every horrible thing they do, which is great, by the way. And I'd love to see the Islamic Federation, the Islamic Republic of Iran, fucking brought down brick by brick.
Yeah. But the Saudis get a free pass for everything.
The Saudis next.
Oof. So, number 8, move to Mars.
Yeah, well, why not?
Nothing on that. That's boring as shit. I don't care about that.
No.
Move to fucking Mars.
Venus probably got a better temperature.
Slightly
high,
well, it depends
about
what you
1,000
like.
Celsius, but, other than that, it should be perfect.
Great for ceramics. So this is what the WF are like. They discuss all this wild futurist bullshit with derpy slogans, these catchy buzzwords, and it just so happens that right-wing agitators that hate and fear change have decided to make the coincidentally Jewish and somewhat evil-sounding Klaus Schwab into the Lex Luthor of this dopey dystopian fear narrative they've just made up on the fly.
You dig deep enough with these people, you'll always find some anti-Semitism.
Oh, fuck.
We're talking about the right, and I don't want to rant too much, but what we're seeing from the right now is that politics is a game, and politics is a game like a game of chess where you play it with misinformation and you use this piece to spread a lie. I mean, people who get into politics, or even people who want to commentate it, should do so because they believe in some intrinsic good would come from it, right? To benefit others, not so much themselves. But this is all just clout chasing in the case of commentators, or in the case of politicians themselves, actually boosting their re-election chances. I've just been looking today at Florida's Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, and it is just unbelievable now. He has brought in an edict saying that males between the age of 18 and 34 will not be vaccinated in Florida for COVID on the basis of a scientific paper that has no authors and so poor data that it cannot be explained. The argument is that in the 18 to 34-year-old males that there is an 85% chance, enhanced chance of a cardiac event. Yeah. It's completely unsupported by
just
data.
Made up.
They've looked at 20 cases. They've ignored those people with COVID, right, and COVID death and COVID, health-related COVID mortalities as well, comorbidities, I should say, and just ignored all that data. Just ignored it all. I mean, I can run you through the numbers of people who died of COVID, 18 to 34, in the United States, who were unvaccinated, and it's 21,000, by the way, compared to those who were vaccinated, 2,000.
Yeah, that's
the
margin.
fucking data. But this guy, because he wrote a couple of things on the Wall Street Journal saying, I think lockdowns are really bad, he had the right political front, and then they basically, so he was appointed by DeSantis. It's all political.
And
it's all designed to basically firm up the GOP vote with the gubernatorial election due in now in just 2 weeks. Yep. They'll drop this guy like the half-wit that he is eventually, but in the meantime, he will do great harm. So conservatives used to be, this is one of their stock standards, Tony Abbott says it all the time, do no more harm, do no further harm. These guys are in the harm business now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, 100%. Totally fucking agree. It's disgusting. Well, look.
Rant over.
No, it was good. I like it. So, look, let's actually look at the article itself. We've had a big preamble. We've fleshed some things out. But what does it say? And as we've said before in the preamble, it is a bit of a doozy. There is a lot of things in here, but I also find when I remove myself from all the nonsense going on, it's kind of funny. So Jack's going to read the quotes,
All right.
and we're going to go through it. So it starts off with this.
Welcome to the year 2030. Welcome to my city, or should I say our city. I don't own anything. I don't own a car. I don't own a house. I don't own any appliances or any clothes. I got my underpants on lay-by.
Yeah, the underpants thing really
That
fucked me
was
up.
there.
That
I just
we-
made that up. Because underpants
but
very
like
funny.
that's it. Like you don't own any clothes.
No.
That's fucking bizarre. So okay, the our city probably triggers right wingers because at its core, in a right wing mindset, we are meant to be atomized as fuck, and the idea of collectivism is somehow communism to them. You know, they just make these dumb fucking leaps, and I find that thought quite unsettling because personally, I see individual self-interest not being a virtue. It's actually quite often toxic and awful and winds up in greedy, bad decisions that harm those around you. In this situation, in the same breath, they whinge on about the importance of local community. And I mean, guys, you've got to pick a lane on this because we're either all atomized people who live individualistic lives with no interest in the commons, or we're engaged in local community. I mean, come on, guys, please work with me here. But generally speaking, the angle they take here is that your individual freedoms will be sacrificed for collective good, and whatever freedoms you happen to give up will make your life hollow and meaningless. The only thing that makes life worth living is owning a house and owning a car. Everything else is secondary and just pointless. So the basis of her city, or our city, is probably going to be a smart city. And this is an actual thing which is being implemented in various places with the blatant backing of the WEF. And we will get to examples of smart cities in the next part of this, which may be in a couple of weeks, maybe in a month, whatever. But the idea is that the city is built with technology at the heart of all the planning, and all this scalability is built into the development, which is kind of fascinating, but it is an experiment. And whether this is a good thing or a bad thing is open to discussion, and the proof will be in the pudding as we see this play out. And we are going to see it play out because these things are happening. Conspiracy theorists tend to say it's not good, but as we know, these are people who are inherently terrified of the unknown and fucking terrible with technology. They're like, oh, I posted Dan Murphy's opening hours. It's also in the name, smart cities. And let's face it, cookers are not smart people.
They're not
so
smart. They're not
you can
smart.
see.
I can tell you that motor vehicle manufacturers around the world, the big names, Toyota, General Motors, Ford, etc., they are planning for a future where people will, particularly living in cities, will subscribe to a car. They won't own a car.
Yep.
It will mean, and this is, we're talking about self-drive cars. They will pay, I'm going to say in today's money, maybe pay $300 or $400 for a car, and you'll be able to subscribe to it, call it up on an app, and it'll come around and pick them up and drive them to where they want to go.
Which would be incredibly efficient.
It would be incredibly efficient. But
I can't leave my stuff in it.
Motor vehicle, no, you can't. You'll have to get all your gear out. Motor vehicle manufacturers are dealing with this because obviously if we're sharing cars, if we're subscribing to a car and that, let's say, one person has, say, a quarter or a fifth of that car, and that's probably not the best way to put it, but that car will take 5 or 6 different people around, some different subscribers around. Obviously, they're not going to be quite as many vehicles manufactured.
Yeah, exactly, which may very well be a good thing because there's a lot of people in the developing world who don't have cars who wouldn't mind one. And keeping them down with economic sanctions and imperialism, I don't know, maybe that's not nice. I don't know, just a funny.
Well, it's gonna just put an absolute soak on resources too. And if they're EVs, then it'll be some of the precious or some of the rare metals that are very very.
Well, rare's in the title, so I guess that's a giveaway about why it might be problematic.
Hey, we got nickel here. We got nickel.
Yeah, come get it, guys. We are going to have another boom.
Go prospecting for nickel now because it's going to be it's a major metal of the future.
Get my nickel detector out. So as to owning nothing, I mean, look, guys, welcome to 2022. We don't own anything anyway. Houses are beyond our reach, hoarded by professional landlords and investment firms that do not give a fuck about you.
This is what resonates with a lot of cookers, but yeah, go on.
Possessions are fleeting. I mean, things are designed to break. Planned obsolescence is a thing. Yep. It's totally normalized now. Most millennials own a computer, a phone, and not much else, and these things need to be replaced every few years anyway. I mean, like, our idea of property rights has been kind of punished over the years. Boomers with 10 properties sure love the idea of ownership because they fucking own everything. But to the generation they priced out of the market, we don't care for it as much because we don't fucking have any. You know, some people might own a house and that's great. But like this idea of hoarding property, we don't relate to it. So yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not terrified by the idea of being a perpetual renter. I already am one. But still, this could be said so much better, and I totally respect that. The aspects of property ownership as they stand right now are problematic for sure, but this is way too much too soon. This is 2030. We're not meant to own houses anymore. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
We are sentimental beings as well. I mean, like some of us have lived in houses, been brought up in houses. I mean, this whole thing sounds basically like you're about to incinerate my favorite teddy bear and use the ashes to power some green factory.
That will make Joel cry.
It'll make me cry. And those tears will be used to power a factory.
This is another pull. I mean, this is the next pull, because you're right. I mean, people don't have a long list of possessions. They'll have things that they're very, that we call, when there are sort of disasters coming through, man-made or natural disasters.
Yeah, grab
those things that cannot be replaced.
I got a tambourine here that Trent Reznor threw me.
And we have those things in boxes and so forth around the house, the things that can't be replaced easily.
Exactly.
And so this is the pull of it. This is the cult-like pull of it that says those things, you won't have them.
No, exactly, because you'll live in this sterilized box that you can't have your possessions on display because apparently it's going to be used for public space, which is a whole other story soon.
Now stick that Ethernet cable up your ass and let's get going today.
Yes, exactly. We need some data from your dreams. These are all things we'll get to later. But this is the thing. Like,
how the fuck do you not own clothes, for example? I mean, what do you do? You rented your shit catchers,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you do that?
It doesn't make any sense. Like the idea that you kind of like in this society, I think we're all wearing white t-shirts and white pants. I think that's really it. We're just like,
everyone will look the same. That's another cult-like pull.
Yeah, really. But like, I do see like in this article, it's that thing of like, we don't own clothes. I'm like, I've got Nine Inch Nails tour t-shirts I'd like to hold on to. I mean, I like them. It's a thing. So look, there may well be a reasonable explanation to this that goes further, but on face value in the article, I totally understand why people think this sounds fucked. It's completely reasonable to think this is an awful, awful conclusion to come to.
Well, I mean, some of the biggest corporations in the world, by the way, are in the clothing business.
Yeah.
Nike is a worldwide brand. People wear their T-shirts. People wear their shoes. People wear their clothing. I mean, this is not something that they're going to give up. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, you just wanted us to rent it out. No.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It
does make no sense.
Yeah, but it's a brain fart.
Everything you considered a product has now become a service. We have access to transportation, accommodation, food, and all the things we need in our daily lives. One by one, all these things became free. So it ended up not making sense for us to own much.
Okay. Like, this is the thing. We were talking before about not owning cars.
Yeah.
And that's a quote from the thing. And basically, not owning a car, I get it. And as you talked about, like the large manufacturers of cars are tending toward this sort of thing. But you know who's really doing that? Fucking Elon Musk. Elon Musk is pedal to the metal, trying so hard to make sure that self-driving cars can be leased by Tesla for profit. And GM's going to do it and Toyota's going to do it. But Elon Musk has been blatant about this being a plan.
Toyota won't do EVs. Toyota will do hydrogen.
They'll do hydrogen,
So they've had, that's actually Mr. Toyota,
That is the thing. And I think he's right too. But
he says no EVs. He's going to go straight to hydrogen.
The thing that fucking annoys me here is it's nothing to do with fucking communism. It's nothing to do with Klaus Schwab. He's nothing to do with this. It's all about Elon. And it's all about profit for Tesla shareholders. And while libertarians adore Elon Musk for his snarky right-wing tweets and tech bro arrogance, he's the one doing this. Be angry at him. And, and the not very communist folks at Uber as well.
You know how many satellites he owns,
communists.
Joel? He owns almost a third of all satellites in orbit.
Imagine the space junk he's going to be responsible for, and as if he's going to clean it up.
Yeah,
NASA, I need your help. Fuck you.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why governments fear him. Even the US government fears him because he's got a lot of pull.
He does have a lot of pull. And the thing is, he's the one who's going to be taking the trucker jobs, using his satellites to automate all of your shit. He's going to replace your car with a robotic taxi you're not allowed to own anymore. Nothing to do with fucking Klaus Schwab. Conspiracy theorists froth over Elon Musk, not over the target. Honestly, start looking at Elon, not Klaus. You fucking morons. He's the one who's going to make you eat bugs.
No matter how you put this together, that's probably, as I say, that's probably the way the motor vehicle industry, they think it's going that way, into that sort of subscribe for a car thing. And people continue to own cars. I mean, imagine trying to take Warren going to Warren Brown's shed and saying, all right, give us all these cars, mate.
Not a chance.
You know, there's going to be a shootout. Yeah,
there will be a shootout. There will be a shootout.
And so people can keep cars, but
of course,
there will be an investment in them if you one, don't have a garage or have difficulty parking.
Yeah.
You'll have something that just whizzes around. You won't have to worry about maintaining it. Some of the Toyota marketing is already getting into this kind of area right now.
Yeah,
and you'll pay a monthly fee, and you'll plug in your app, and it'll just come and pick you up, and it'll take you where you want to go, and bring you back when you're ready, and all that sort of stuff. You know, there'll be a subscription, a base limit, plus probably what you use it for. So it'll be much cheaper than owning a car and having to park one in a city.
Yeah, that's it.
Anyway,
and look, one of the things here is that why are these things free? That's not covered in the article. Like
it's not going to be free.
Mentioning, well, it says in the article it's free.
Yeah,
so, that sounds
free.
good. But what's the catch? Like, someone has to maintain the Amazon delivery drones. Someone's got to code the next generation of robots. Like, what are you going to make a robot and be like, I guess we've made robots now. We're done here.
Yeah.
But apparently everything's free, like inexplicably free.
Yeah.
So I just say, like, what is the catch? Like, who is running this thing? Is this form of like extreme basic universal income underpinned by some sort of workforce? Because I know this is meant to be automated, but how automated is this? Because I'm all about fully automated luxury communism. It's a very appealing concept. But there's zero chance all of this is being done by robots in 9 years' time. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Well, not in 8. I wouldn't think so.
It's just not going to happen. And someone in this story is holding a screwdriver and they're turning it around. And someone's got to be writing the code as well. Who is that going to be? Like, what is the return?
That will be done robotically. So if you're looking at an AI future, that's where you're going to go. And this is why people smarter than you and I, like Stephen Hawking, who's now deceased, said, this is going to fuck the planet up completely.
Yeah.
They will attack. You know this. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger made millions of dollars out of this. It's only a matter of time before the robots attack and enslave us.
You absolutely cannot make Skynet sentient. I'm sorry, but you just fucking cannot. So, look, my gut feeling is these so-called smart cities are going to be maintained by migrant workers, especially the NEOM Smart City project, which we will discuss in the next episode on the Great Reset, which is part 3, or maybe part 4, because we're probably going to split this one in 2. But we will look at what this is based on, which is the concept of smart cities, starting with the one being launched by definitely not a murderer, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, looks set to pointlessly slaughter more birds than windmills and jet engines combined. That's a whole thing. It's pretty funny. The whole thing's mirrors. It's totally fucked up. Birds are like, flying to it.
Look, we don't know that he turned another human being into a sort of pink sludge, but he might have.
He might have.
Allegedly.
I mean, look, it was fine. Trump said it was fine. And look, there's also...
so did Joe Biden. Everyone just turned their backs on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just no one cares. But look, it's also, there's a few casually executed local tribal leaders in there as well. Well, no one cares about them.
You can't make an omelette without breaking a few skulls.
Yes, exactly.
So here, another extract. First, communication became digitised and free to everyone. Not sure about that. Then, when clean energy became free, things started to move quickly. Transportation dropped dramatically in price. It made no sense for us to own cars anymore because we could call a driverless vehicle or a flying car for long journeys within minutes. We started transporting ourselves in a much more organised and coordinated way when public transport became easier, quicker and more convenient than the car. Now, I can hardly believe that we accepted congestion and traffic jams, not to mention the air pollution from combustion engines. What were we thinking? Silly atavistic 20th century people.
What were we thinking? That bit really pissed me off. And it's like, look, advertisement-sponsored free internet and online storage is discussed in the Fourth Industrial Revolution as a very likely future product available in the market, and I don't see why not. Basically, we already get it. We've got, Google Drive, things like that. It's free, it's pretty big, and it's advertised as sponsored. It's not some sort of crazy dystopian idea that we are going to have certain services that are accessible for free because we are the product. But I mean, this one here, this world here, I work and then I eventually give money to these companies because they advertise things to me and I, like a mindless moron, buy them with the money that I made working. In this world, everything's free. I'm buying shoes willy-nilly because the algorithm fucking told me to, and life is fucking great. I live in this weird, controlled abundance, and nothing makes any sense anymore. What are you advertising when everything is free?
Maybe the robots are threatening. Maybe the robots are telling us. If
Maybe
you don't
our
buy
organs
this,
are just getting harvested. Just Peter
how are you
Thiel's
gonna
just
get
taking our
around
kidneys.
with 2 broken legs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so here we go. Here's another extract. Sometimes this is real hippie stuff. Sometimes I use my bike when I go to see some of my friends. I enjoy the exercise and the ride. It kind of gets the soul to come along on the journey. What a terrible rider you are. Why would you use kind of? You fucking idiot. Anyway, funny how some things seem never to lose their excitement. Walking, biking, cooking, drawing, and growing plants. That's not exciting. Growing plants, not exciting.
No,
Anyway,
it's not at all.
It makes perfect sense and reminds us of how our culture emerged out of a close relationship with nature.
I mean, look, that's just weird. This is weird.
Yeah, that is just straight out hippie bullshit.
It's weird.
We emerged from nature and started riding bikes. Is that what we're saying? Invented the wheel and said, "Hey, let's whack another one on there." And
I love
we're
this
away.
cog mechanism. Yeah.
Christ.
So look, this
Walked
whole article,
upright, clambered onto a cycle.
it's just literally weird shit. I mean, like someone has hit this woman on the head with a mallet. I've got a bike and I ride at places often to get from A to B to avoid parking. Like this isn't futuristic, and I'm not being weird about it. I just have a bike. Like it's just not. I don't get like weird about it. I don't want to ride a sonnet to my fucking push bike, but. What this appears to be is the sort of "we still touch grass" moment of the article.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the inner hippie of this article,
and it's what they're trying to get across. And don't worry, guys, we haven't turned into mindless tech zombies. We still walk places. We still have legs. We still cook food. And I have plants in my 3 square meter apartment where I sleep standing up.
And I'm sitting watching them grow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because this is the most exciting thing of my fucking day.
It's very exciting.
It seems really desperate. But I get the message they're trying to get across here, which is that it's touching grass. It really is.
And this is really going to get you going there, Joel. In our city, we don't pay any rent. Hooray!
Ooh, I like it. This is good.
Because someone else is using our free space whenever we do not need it. Someone's sitting on your shitter right now, leaving a couple of skitties in the bowl.
Yeah, that's it.
Because you're not there.
Yeah, that's it.
My living room is used for business meetings when I'm not there. Yeah.
Actually, people are probably fucking on your couch and filming it and putting it online.
Who are those people on my couch?
This is how you pay rent now. And this is this is probably the first indication that I've seen some sort of value being created in this sort of weird utopian idea, but also not really. Because I can see why people would take issue with this because privacy is really important in this regard. I don't care about my data. My data means nothing to me, but I don't want people in my fucking lounge room when I least expect it, especially not surprise, an Uber board meeting in my fucking bedroom.
Who was that guy who just went in the toilet?
Yeah, but I don't think you have a choice in this. This sounds like you have no choice, but to have people in your house as a part of your rental agreement. So is it when you're not needing it, or is it when they decide you don't need it? This is you now an Airbnb manager, but for who and why? Because the other part of this makes no sense.
This is the other thing, yeah.
Why are you doing it? It could be all automated.
Who organised that? Why are these guys sitting in my lounge room talking about healthcare?
It makes absolutely no sense. And the thing that really fucks me up, which is crazy, is that, so you've got a house which you maintain and that you regularly hire out because you don't pay rent, like an Airbnb to to board meetings. What if you get some bad ratings? What if some tech bros don't like the crudités you put out?
Who wants to? If you're a member of a big corporate board, we're just going to pop around to Joel's house and have a board meeting.
Totally, exactly. And look, if they don't like my craft beer selection, then I'll get a 1 star.
That's right. We do have this massive office that overlooks the harbour with a view that's we've literally paid millions or billions of dollars. But I don't think we'll just pop around Joel's, have the meeting there.
Oh no, but in this future, you don't have to pay that money because you could just Airbnb someone's lounge room for some fucking bizarre reason. But of course, this is the thing. If you get a bad rating, no one's going to hire your lounge room, right?
That's right.
But you don't pay rent anymore because all these tech bros are paying you rent.
So what if in Nebraska?
So what if no tech bros want to hire out your place anymore? Maybe you missed the toilet at night and you forgot to clean up the yellow specks on the ground, and now they get offended by it and give you a 1-star rating.
You're going to be the new Paul.
How do you pay rent? Yeah, you have to move underground. And underground is an interesting thing that comes up later on because Dennis Leary in Demolition Man is a star character in this dystopian fucking nightmare.
He does a brilliant piece. He does a brilliant piece about the film, actually. And when he signed on for it, Sylvester Stallone, was part of his contract to do the movie, was that he'd have a golf pro on call at any time.
That's so bizarre.
And Wesley Snipes would do his own stunts. You know, I don't need a stunt man. I'll do it myself. So they'd let him do it. They'd sort of just allow him to do it, and then they'd wrap him and then just send him home. He goes and send him home, and then they get the stunt man and
just do it properly.
Do it properly. And meanwhile, Sly's going up to Dennis and going, "Hey Dennis, you want to hit some balls?" And he goes, "Well, not really, you know."
I'm fucking working here, right?
I've got stuff to do here. Oh, okay. You know, it's very funny. And we're going to wrap it up there, Joel.
Yeah,
The Great Reset. This is part 2. We reckon we've got at least another part left in us. Maybe
on
a third,
this bit at
maybe
least.
a third Great Reset part 3.
Well,
it's
Great Reset part 3 will
shit.
be Smart Cities, but yeah,
It is mad shit.
Yeah.
But I love sort of, you know, I'm sort of an amateur futurist, and I love looking at all these sorts of things, and love looking at all the conflict, and love looking at the way the cougars have just been sucked right in to this future that just sounds awful. And really,
it doesn't exist.
And really, it is not going to go. Not
She
going to
missed the
exist.
mark
Not in
pretty
8
hard.
years, anyway. You know,
I can
it's just-
strongly recommend the Fourth Industrial Revolution if you're into futurism, no doubt. I actually strongly recommend most of the World Economic Forum bullshit, especially the Yuval Harari stuff and all that sort of thing. But I tell you what, this is possibly the worst thing the World Economic Forum's put out. And I have listened to countless hours of audiobooks. I've listened to countless hours of podcasts. I have read shitloads of articles. I quite enjoy their stuff. And this is the funniest, dumbest fucking thing they've pushed out. And like I say, I don't completely blame Cougars for running with the ball here because it's got so much to work with.
Yeah, perhaps to paraphrase PJ O'Rourke, and he was talking about the Epcot Centre at Disney World.
Ooh, I want to go.
But what our friends in the New World Order are up to here is creating a fantasy world that's actually worse than reality. That's just to paraphrase the late great PJ O'Rourke. And you have been listening to the Conditional Release program with your hosts, Jack the Insider and Joel Hill.
Jack can be found on Twitter on @JackTheInsider and Joel on @CrunchyMoses with a K. We set up a Facebook page you can find fairly easily. But of course, as per usual, if you enjoyed the episode, please share on social media. Our numbers are climbing, but they're not climbing fast enough to make us quit our day jobs and move into apartments where everything is a subscription service. And if we do one thing wrong, our lives are miserable.
We have a Patreon to help keep this sustainable, to keep the world turning. It's a labour of love, but we still have to pay rent. You know,
Yes.
It's just not a 2030 yet.
We haven't got there.
Where we'll have people wandering in and
I
out
need
of
my tech
our
bros.
toilets.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true. So for as little as $5 a month, you can have access to all sorts of bonus content, including a bi-weekly bonus episode. We're hoping it's weekly, but we can't do it bi-weekly. And this is all the good shit that doesn't make it in the main program because we have fun things we want to talk about just on the side. And we try to make it worth your while, and we will love you so much and respond to your messages. And just
There's a lot of very good stuff there. A lot of very good stuff, even some that I've not been involved in, which is probably even better. And finally, all feedback, tips and death threats should be sent to the Conditional Release Program at gmail.com. It's got a "the" at the front of it. We would love to hear from you, even if it's to tell us that you've got a great idea for an article. You'll learn tons of useless shit and be miserable. Don't need to read it, mate. We're already living that dream.
Oh, living it. Loving it. Living it, loving it. It's great. I'm going to go and throw some things out right now.
See you, listeners.
Thanks, guys. See you then.
I don't think I ever want to talk to any of those people.